Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. We talk a lot on this show about how important work experience is, but today we're really going to get into it.
Really break it down.
Yeah, how much does it actually impact your earning power?
Right.
And even a country's whole economy. And to do that, we're diving into this fascinating paper from the American Economic Journal.
Oh, yeah. This one's a good one.
It's called Human Capital Accumulation at Work. And
very catchy title.
yeah, well, academic papers,
Yeah.
but
They're not known for their exciting titles.
no, they're not.
But this is a good one, though. This is a really interesting look at what we learn on the job.
Yeah, and get this, the research actually suggests that work experience could be just as important as education.
We always talk about education is the key to a good income.
Right.
But this paper kind of flips the script and shows just how powerful work experience can be.
So how did they even, study this? Did they just ask people, hey, how's work going?
No, not quite.
Right.
They analyzed data from 145 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. A massive sample size.
That's huge.
Yeah, they were looking at how much people's wages increase each year just from gaining experience.
Oh, interesting.
And they called this the returns to experience.
Okay, so you're not getting a raise because of a promotion
Right.
or anything, but just because you've been at a job for another year.
Exactly.
And you've presumably learned more.
Yep.
So you're more valuable to an employer.
That's the idea.
Got it.
And globally, they found that wages went up about 2% each year,
Okay.
just from that experience
Well,
factor.
That's not nothing.
Yeah, it might not sound like a lot,
Right.
but it really adds up over time.
Compounding. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
When they looked at developed versus developing countries,
Uh-huh.
there was a massive difference.
So where you live impacts how much your experience is worth.
It seems that way.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So in developed countries,
Okay.
the returns to experience were almost double those in developing nations.
No kidding.
We're talking 3.2% versus 1.7%.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge gap.
Huge gap.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being a middle income country.
Okay.
This jump really happens when a nation becomes a high income economy.
Got it.
So there's something about those developed economies that really seems to supercharge the value of experience.
So is it they have better training programs, or are there just different types of jobs that allow people to learn and grow faster?
These are great questions.
Yeah.
And the paper actually dives into those differences.
Okay, good.
It turns out the quality of experience really matters.
Makes sense.
Like a year spent doing, the same task over and over
Right. Yeah.
might not boost your earning potential as much as a year where you're tackling all sorts of different challenges
Right.
and developing new skills.
I get it.
So it seems that developed economies might just be better at providing those kinds of growth opportunities in the workplace.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one thing that I thought was really interesting is how recessions can really leave this lasting mark on your earning potential.
Yeah, sure.
They found that people who start their careers during a recession see lower returns to experience pretty much forever.
It's wild.
It's like this hidden penalty that follows you your whole career.
Yeah, it really highlights that recessions don't just hurt in the short term.
Right.
They could have long-term consequences for your whole career trajectory.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those early years are so crucial for building momentum
Yeah.
and setting yourself up for success.
Right.
And entering the workforce during a downturn.
Yeah.
It can really disrupt that process.
For sure.
And create a ripple effect that lasts for decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
And speaking of big economic shifts, this paper also looked at what happened in former communist countries
Yes.
when they transitioned to new economic systems.
Right.
What'd they find there?
Pretty traumatic stuff, actually. It turns out that those countries saw this noticeable drop
Oh, wow.
in returns to experience after moving away from communism.
Really?
Yeah, and the researchers point to East Germany as a prime example
Oh, interesting.
and show how quickly those returns adjusted
Okay.
as new generations entered the workforce
Uh-huh.
under this completely different economic model.
So even huge societal changes
Right.
can impact the value of work experience.
Exactly.
All connected.
It all intertwined.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what's the big takeaway here? Are we saying ditch college, just get a job?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The researchers are very clear that both education and experience
Right.
are essential for personal income growth
Okay.
and for a country's economic development.
Got it.
It's not an either situation.
Okay.
But here's the thought-provoking part.
I like those.
Yeah. Their simulations showed that just boosting those returns to experience
Mm.
could be just as powerful as
Wow.
improving education levels
No kidding.
when it comes to lifting a developing country's income,
Interesting.
and it could happen much faster.
Okay, that's pretty profound.
Yeah. So instead of just focusing on sending more people to school,
Right.
what if we focus on creating work environments that really maximize the value of that experience,
Especially in developing countries.
especially in developing countries?
Yeah.
That could be an incredibly potent strategy
Wow.
for accelerating economic growth.
Okay, so now we're cooking.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, so how do we do that?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Because the paper explores these two main ways that we gain human capital at work through structured training programs
Okay.
and by simply learning by doing.
Right.
And they haven't quite nailed down which one is more impactful,
Uh-huh.
but they're leaning towards learning by doing,
Interesting.
especially in those developing countries
Okay.
where formal training programs might be less common.
Yeah, I mean, I think about my own career, right? And so much of what I know
Yeah,
came from just doing the work
absolutely.
and, making mistakes and figuring things out as I went.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
How much of what we all know
Yeah.
came from a classroom
Yeah.
versus just getting our hands dirty and learning on the job?
This is making me think about my career in a whole new light.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It really highlights how important the actual work environment is.
Right.
Like what factors make those learning by doing experiences so valuable?
Yeah.
Is it the type of work, the company culture, the chance to learn from amazing colleagues?
Mentorship, right?
Mentorship, exactly.
Yeah.
These are all things worth considering,
Absolutely.
both for individuals and for companies
Right.
that want to build a more engaged
Yeah.
and productive workforce.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
We've uncovered some really fascinating insights about work experience.
Yeah, it's not just a paycheck, right?
No.
It's about investing in our human capital
Absolutely.
and driving economic growth.
It's a big deal.
It is.
But there's even more to explore.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started.
So stick around, because in the next part, we're going to dig deeper into the paper's findings about how these varying returns to experience actually translate into economic growth on a national level.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, we'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into this fascinating research.
Can't wait.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about how the kind of work you do can really impact your earning power.
Yeah, the quality of that experience really matters.
But what about the bigger picture? How does all this individual experience translate into a whole country's economy?
Well, that's what I love about this study. They didn't just stop at the personal level.
Okay.
They actually built this whole economic model
Oh, wow.
to simulate what would happen if developing countries could increase their returns to experience.
What if we could just wave a magic wand
Yeah,
and suddenly make work experience more valuable?
and what they found was really promising.
Okay.
Just boosting those returns had this huge impact on a country's GDP per capita.
Really?
We're talking significant growth,
Okay.
and it happened much faster than with traditional methods.
This is giving me hope because, for so long, the focus has been on education.
Right.
Which is important, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But this is suggesting that there's another lever.
Another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, for economic development, and it's making work itself more valuable.
Yeah, it's like we've been so focused on one side of the equation,
Right.
getting people educated,
Yeah.
that we've kind of overlooked the other side,
Right.
making sure that education translates into valuable experience.
Right. It's got to lead to something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I remember earlier we were talking about how the researchers didn't just lump all developing countries together.
Right.
They looked at middle income and low income countries separately.
Yeah.
What did they find there?
Well, that's a key detail because it reinforces this idea
Okay.
that the value of experience
Uh-huh.
is really tied to a country's overall economic development.
Interesting.
They found that middle-income countries
Okay.
had higher returns to experience
Yeah.
than low-income countries.
Okay.
But here's the interesting part.
Yeah.
The difference wasn't nearly as big as the jump you see
Okay.
when a country goes from middle income to high income.
So it's not just about reaching a certain income level.
Right.
There's something fundamentally different about how developed economies structure their work.
It seems that way.
Yeah, and the types of jobs they offer.
Right.
That really amplifies the value of that experience.
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
What are they doing differently?
Right.
And can other countries learn from them?
Yeah, how do we bottle that up? And
Exactly.
yeah.
And the paper really highlights how crucial it is
Okay.
to tailor policies and strategies to each country's unique situation.
You can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach.
One size fits all just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, you got to know what's going on in that country.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's about understanding those specific factors in each economy,
Right.
the industries, the labor market, the institutions,
Yeah.
and figuring out how they can all work together
Right.
to boost those returns to experience.
This paper has really given us like a whole new lens
Totally.
for looking at economic development.
All right. It's a new perspective.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is.
And while it focuses on like these big macro level trends,
Yeah,
we can't forget about the individual, right?
absolutely.
We each play a role
Right.
in shaping our own returns to experience.
I can't just be passive
Right.
and wait for things to happen.
Yeah, you can't just sit back and expect opportunities to fall in your lap.
Got to go out and grab them.
You got to be proactive, yeah, seek out challenges, and just constantly learn and adapt.
Be intentional.
Yeah, it's about crafting a career that maximizes those returns.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the value of those learning by doing moments,
Yeah.
even when they feel messy,
Right.
even when they're challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best lessons come from those experiences that push us outside of our comfort zones.
This whole deep dive has been a learning by doing moment.
For me too.
It's given us a fresh perspective on work experience.
I think so.
It's not just about a paycheck.
No, it's an investment.
Yeah, it's about investing in ourselves
Right.
and contributing to something bigger.
Exactly.
It's about seeing work as this powerful engine
Yeah,
for both like personal and collective progress.
absolutely. And recognizing that experience is valuable,
Yeah.
not just in developed economies,
Right.
but everywhere.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still some really interesting points from the paper we want to explore.
Oh, yeah.
So stick around as we dive into a crucial finding about how these varying returns to experience actually translate to economic growth. Right. On a national level.
It's fascinating stuff.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back and ready to wrap up this deep dive into work experience.
It's been a good one.
It has. You know, before the break, we were talking about how different countries see these like different levels of return on experience.
Right.
And what I thought was interesting was it's not just a straight line.
Yeah.
Like it's not just, oh, richer countries value experience more. There seems to be like this real shift
Yeah.
when a country kind of hits that like high income status.
That's what it seems like.
Oh, so what's going on there?
Yeah, it really suggests that there's a qualitative difference
Okay.
in what's happening in those developed economies. It's not just that they pay more.
Right.
It's like the experience itself is more valuable
Okay.
because of how the work is structured.
So is it the types of jobs? Is it the level of responsibility people are given like early on?
I think it's a combination of factors.
Mentorship.
Mentorship for sure.
Okay.
But just think about it. Developed economies, they often have these more specialized industries,
Right.
more complex tasks, greater emphasis on innovation.
Right.
And those environments just naturally create more opportunities
Okay.
for employees to learn and grow and
Yeah.
become really valuable assets.
It's making me think about all those articles you see about the future of work, right?
Oh, yeah.
Automation, AI,
Right.
the gig economy.
It's changing fast.
Yeah. And it seems like if we want to thrive in that future, we've got to be focused on creating work environments that really maximize human potential.
Absolutely. If experience is going to be the key driver of human capital in the future, then we need to be intentional about designing jobs and workplaces
Right.
that foster that growth.
It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
It's about creating a future where human skills
Yes.
and ingenuity
Are more valuable than ever.
are more valuable than ever. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, we've covered so much ground today, and I feel like I have a whole new perspective on work experience.
Me too. It's been great.
It's not just about clocking in and out, it's about investing in ourselves
Absolutely.
and contributing to something bigger.
Yeah, being part of something
Yeah,
that's bigger than ourselves.
I love that.
It's powerful stuff.
So a huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this deep dive into work experience.
It's been fun.
We hope you found it as enlightening as we did.
We did.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. What stood out to you?
What factors in your own work environment make experience more valuable? Share your insights on social media.
Yeah. Use the show's hashtag.
We're always eager to continue the conversation.
Always.
So until next time, keep those minds curious
Keep learning.
and those careers thriving.
That's it.
Thanks for listening.